Is A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey everything the trailer makes it out to be?
Lies. Oh, lies!
Let's break it down right now. Two strangers who meet at a mutual friend's wedding have the chance to relive important moments from their pasts, illuminating the path that led them to the present and gaining the opportunity to change their futures. A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey is directed by Kogonada, who is also known for directing Columbus, After Yang, 4 episodes of Pachinko, and 2 episodes of The Acolyte. It's clear that Kogonada has a very artistic and reflective style to his filmmaking, which would seemingly make him the perfect choice to direct A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. And I actually think he was a good choice. This movie seems right up his alley in regards to what the film seems to be going for, even if not always executed to its potential. That being said, I thought the technical direction was good at times, but very off at others. The shot compilation, blocking, visual storytelling, and light and color choices were pretty good, sometimes great, but the tone, the pace, the emotional performances of the actors, not great. First off, I think the film spent too much time at the start trying to be funnier than it should have, which confuses the audience off the top and makes us question our expectations subconsciously, particularly with the rental car employees, but we'll get to that later. The story is also insanely manufactured with no build whatsoever. And yes, that may be a writing issue, but even a bad screenplay can be delivered with some nuance and finesse. For example, small spoiler alert. Very early in the film, Colin and Margot are at a rainy wedding and they lock eyes and they are completely infatuated with each other to the extent that literally in the next scene, they don't even really introduce themselves, but go into this intense back and forth about marrying each other and not being good for each other and all the seemingly deep stuff that you say for after hello, my name is. It just felt very forced and very vanilla, but the film obviously wants you to care and have the feels, although it hasn't done anything at all to make us interested in following these two people, which immediately throws the tone off because the pace is moving too fast for what we're seeing to resonate. And if anything, it starts to feel contrived right away. There was even a full-on commercial for Burger King that was about as subtle as Master Tang and Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Oh, Taco Bell, product placement with Taco Bell. Incharito, macho burrito.
And as far as emotional direction, I just felt the beats didn't land as intended. To me, the actors' performances weren't always grounded and the chemistry on screen was often lacking. 2 of 5. So I thought the cinematography and visuals were one of the best aspects of this film. For the most part, this is a really beautiful looking movie. The framing and composition is high quality. The visual symbolism of the doors popping up and taking you back to a significant time in your life was a cool metaphor. But because it's not an uncommon idea, if it isn't done correctly, it can come across as strained, which to me it does early on. But I do like the motif. Also, the GPS looked like a cross between a classic Nintendo controller and HAL from A Space Odyssey. I don't know, maybe it's just me. The cinematographer-director synergy seemed to match with the director's vision and the DP's visual style, so that was good. Lighting and color to me were easily the best part of this film. I thought the color palettes were very rich and the lighting definitely conveyed mood and tone. Now, it wasn't perfect in every scene. There were times to me where the exposure and color were weird and kind of intense. It didn't ruin the film or anything, but to my eyes, It was noticeable and not always for the better. But the scene where Colin sings and dances in a musical was kind of fun visually. I didn't love Colin's beard though. I do wish there was more to the storytelling so the visuals could really go big, but we'll talk about storytelling next. 3 of 5 for cinematography and visuals. So the writing and storytelling are by far the weakest link in this picture. Like I said earlier, it tried too hard to be funny when it should just be sharp and focused, getting laughs only when the story demands. Speaking of story, the plot and story are insanely manufactured. Colin and Margot's characters meeting was insanely manufactured. Their issues, especially early, were insanely manufactured. They start talking about hurting each other a minute into meeting, which feels really rushed, yet they're having this deep romantic moment that has zero chemistry and dialogue that feels very high school drama. Like there's a line where Colin's character tells Margot, "I prefer to feel nervous with you than nothing alone," while they're literally sitting in a patch of grass overlooking the earth. Also, while I appreciate the premise and themes, the whole magic door thing makes no sense in what appears to be the actual real world we all live in. Like the characters aren't shook at all that this is happening to them and that they're apparently driving a magical Saturn with a bossy, omniscient GPS system. At times, this movie does get a little artsy fartsy and experimental visually, to the point where it sort of felt like I was watching a corny stage play.
Thank you, fam, for helping me be who I am. Who I am. Who I am.
And that's not a shot at stage plays. I actually enjoy theater a lot. And now that I think about it, this film may have actually played a lot better on the stage. Yes, there were a couple brief, heartfelt moments, and it's not that the messages themselves weren't profound or empathetic, but it was how we got to those messages that was the problem. 1 of 5 for writing and storytelling. Before we get to the last 2 categories, please think about subscribing if you're enjoying this review. You don't even have to leave the video, just hit that icon down there and you're good to go. Thank you. Back to the review. A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey stars Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie as 2 strangers who go on this road trip together and relive their past and who find each other attractive, so they inevitably force a relationship together. As I said earlier, I didn't like the writing at all, and it certainly didn't do the actors any favors. That being said, I did think Colin's performance was decent and probably 3rd best in the film. Margot Robbie wasn't terrible, but I thought her performance suffered the most from the bad writing and storytelling. Don't get me wrong, she had good moments, but her character was kind of unlikable and emotionally flat. And I understand that the film was attempting to illustrate an earnest depiction of how people make really bad choices and mistakes, but the way she was written, they never had any redeeming qualities for her, but they tried to play it as if we should like her and be rooting for her by the end, and I just wasn't. Colin and Margot also didn't have a ton of chemistry. I almost would have rather them been really good friends or just strangers on a magical journey than try to force the love story, but I guess you can't have 2 attractive leads without them falling in love. The film also featured Kevin Kline and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, both of whom I did not like at all. First of all, I didn't even realize that was Kevin Kline until I looked up the cast on IMDb. Secondly, both of their characters were supposed to be these funny and kind of philosophical characters, but they were just annoying as hell and way overly quirky. It also featured Hamish Linklater as Colin's father, and in my opinion was Hands down, the best performance in the film. Followed by the great performance of UV Hecht. Hope I said that right. He played young Colin. Also very good. Then there was also Jodie Turner-Smith as the GPS, aka Jiminy Cricket, and Lily Robb, who also did a good job as Margot's mother. Man, this section is sort of a hard one to call because the performances weren't totally awful, but because of the bad writing and story, the actors just didn't have a lot to work with. 2 of 5 for performances and characters. Overall, I feel like A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey had a lot of potential, but leaned too hard on forced drama instead of telling a good story. I do like the message of the movie, and there are some heartfelt moments, but what felt like could have been an epic story ended up being kind of disappointing. The film tries hard to be philosophical, but nothing ever feels that profound. The whole premise of the doors that transport you to another time of your life could have been a lot more exciting and fun, but it was missing a little explanation and a compelling story to set our protagonists out on their adventure, but still somehow managed to come across as heavy-handed. It sort of reminds me of Ben Stiller's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, in that they're both a little heavy-handed, but Walter Mitty is ultimately more enjoyable. They each feature protagonists who suddenly embark on an extraordinary real-world adventure. They both lean on fantasy or dreamlike sequences that serve as a metaphor for wanting more out of life, or how they're both similar with the whimsical artistic tones or the visual storytelling. But love it or hate it, I think Walter Mitty's beats actually landed as intended and to a much more satisfying end. A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey wears its heart on its sleeve, and it's obviously well-meaning with some important themes, but in the end, it feels a bit hollow. I would suggest, if you are hoping to get the feels from this film, then stick to the trailer. 1 of 5 for execution and impact. All in all, that gives A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey a score of 9, which just falls short of matinee material and lands it into my wait for streaming ranking. Don't forget to check out my movie phone videos and get a fun, different take on movie reviews, new and old. Did you see A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey? What ranking would you give it? Let me hear it in the comments. If you'd like to see more of my Earnest and movie phone reviews, please subscribe for much more. Thank you for watching.